So many of us struggle with happiness because we don't know what it is. We think that happiness is a feeling that you will wait to achieve someday,
Mhm.
or a feeling that you will magically receive someday if something happens. And the problem is that that's not what happiness is. Happiness is something that you invent right here by yourself through doing it. Happiness is an action that you create. It's not something that happens to you. And so when we shift from waiting for happiness to happen to us and we start to actually create happiness ourselves, everything changes. You can create happiness, for example, by listening to a certain song that just motivates you, or reading a book, or as you've shared today, connecting with God. You take those actions, and then the actions take you to the place of happiness. It's not something you wait for when your rent is paid or when the new Tesla shows up.
Welcome back to the Empowered Woman, Badass, and Unfiltered podcast. Your host, Olivia, here, and I have the Dr. Pelè, and we're going to be talking about turning your ideas into clients and profitable happiness. Just a little bit about Dr. Pelè. He's an educator, musician, best-selling author, and the founder of Profitable Happiness International. Through hands-on mentorship, he helps entrepreneurs, employees, and executives unleash their hidden powers of mindset and marketing to achieve the success they seek. His links are in the show notes below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, they're in the description below. Dr. Pelè, I'm so happy to have you.
It's a real pleasure to be on this call with you, Olivia. Thank you so much.
Of course. So you've been doing this thing for a long time. You've been like in this for a couple decades, like almost my whole life. So please just give me just give me a little bit of, like, you've learned through a lot. So how do you really turn your ideas into clients?
Yeah, you're right that that's a big topic, but I think it's a very important topic because I think at the core of the problem most of us have is that we have lots of experience in life, lots of knowledge, lots of things we want to share, and then we've got this big question: how do I make money? how do I how do I turn all of these things that I've experienced? I have a PhD, I have a master's, I have this. How do I make money? And one thing I wanted to just correct is that my focus is really more on helping entrepreneurs now than it is with helping companies. Now, it doesn't mean I won't help companies and I don't, but most of my clients really are entrepreneurs that are trying to turn their ideas into clients versus the bigger companies trying to do so. So, to answer your question, how do you do that? The very first thing you have to do is get clarity. The next thing you have to do is learn how to attract customers to you. And the last thing you have to do is learn how to create results. So turn your attraction into monetization. And I call that a CAR, CAR. So you get clarity on exactly what your ideas are and how they become offers. You attract your ideal clients with your offers by making them into magnets. And then you learn how to convert the attracted people in your ecosystem into paying clients. It's a big topic, but those are the big things. And I call it a car because it's how you drive from A to B. A is, I have ideas and I don't have any clients. B is, now people are listening. Now I get paid for my passion, for the things I love to do, and so on and so forth. It's a big topic, but those are the big three steps. Car.
Yeah. And while you were saying them, I was like, okay, clarity, attraction, results. Okay. And then you said car. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what that spells. What's
Absolutely.
that acronym? But I like that. And I'm one of those people that's more so into attraction marketing. I've
Mhm.
been fighting recently um, that our online world has become so transactional.
Mhm.
And I'm really starting to dislike that. Like,
Mm.
as a person that is not very transactional, I like to build relationships.
Yeah.
And you have a platform that allows people to really learn if their messages are conveying properly
Yep.
and build relationships with people. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. I wrote a book called Social Velocity. I don't know if you can see it with the lighting here, but Social Velocity, it says why going fast won't get you far. And it completely aligns with the philosophy and the thinking you just described about this fast, speedy, transactional, spammy world that we all live in. In fact, this book was reviewed by Seth Godin, author of This is Marketing. And Seth is probably the father of online marketing and permission marketing as we know it today. So I feel very lucky that he took the time to read this book, review it, and he said, Dr. Pelè shows you just how much outbound marketing has changed and helps you find your footing in a brand new world of ideas. Love Seth. He's just the best. Now, the reason I bring up this book is the foundation of the environment that you described. And I call that environment client jam. Now, you might wonder, well, what's a jam? And what's a client jam? I'm a musician. You can probably tell with the guitars and everything in my studio here. But when musicians come together to jam, what they're really doing is they're creating a space of impromptu excellence that's going to happen because we came together. Now, if we were on our own trying to, create the music or whatever the content might be, we would not be as excellent. We would not get the feedback. There wouldn't be the urgency. And so a client jam is when peers, people who are all in the business of turning their ideas into clients, come together at specific times. They jam through the software and then they give each other feedback. And that peer feedback is so powerful because it helps everyone get better at content creation for social media. The real challenge we all have is that the social media gurus, the people who own Facebook and LinkedIn and all these places, they are looking for engagement. They are
Mhm.
going to suppress any post that you and I put out that doesn't have engagement. So if I put out a post, put some content, might be the best thing in the world, but if it doesn't have certain qualities and certain types of engagement, it'll get like two or three views. Me, my wife,
Mhm.
and my mama will see will see those posts. And so a community like Client Jam really gets you to the next level of post engagement, learning by feedback and by participation with others, and seeing your results in real time. I can go and see graphs that show me how many people are actually engaging with my posts and following it back to my lead magnet or back to my offer. So it's a place where the dream and the promise of social velocity gets to come alive. And it's a completely free environment. I built it. The software is completely for people who want to turn their ideas into clients and do it in a group environment. It's completely free, and they can, of course, just use it and grow the world, improve the world. That's our goal.
That's awesome. And it's so beneficial to actually get feedback. So many people, like, if they're not reacting, you really aren't going to get feedback. But there are people, and I've noticed this, that'll comment on my things. It's like, I never really respond, but I love looking at your posts, because you've got those people that are a lot of introverts, for
Yeah,
instance, do not react to things. And there's more introverts in this world than extroverts.
yeah,
I'm going to just put that out there. Just,
yeah,
I know, granted, the things. And, I know Seth Godin is super cool, but I think there was an even cooler thing that you've done, that you've shared with me, is you did marketing for Les Brown. Like,
ah,
that to me is more like, why? Like, because I'm so in the personal development space. Like,
yeah,
he's been in my head so many times, in my ears so many times, and I'm just
yeah,
like, that is so cool.
yeah,
Um, and he's like still going and doing stuff.
yeah, yeah. Les Brown. First of all, let me do my Les Brown impression. You have greatness within you. I love Les Brown. I met him several years ago. He was looking for some help getting some things on the internet. And I was his little helper guy. And I asked him, I said, Les, can I call myself your vice president of marketing for my resume? He's like, call yourself whatever you want. But the bottom line is, I just helped him do a few things, put some things on the internet. But he told me one day, he said, Dr. Play, here's what you got to do. You got to realize that all the greatness that we talk about, you and other people having, it's useless unless you get it out there. Somebody has to see and appreciate your greatness, or else you can't do anything with it. You can't convert it into clients. And I actually moved from Les Brown to his mentor. So I call Les Brown my mentor. But Les Brown has a mentor, and his
Mm-hmm.
mentor is a gentleman named Bob Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Proctor, rather.
Yep.
The late Bob Proctor. I never met him, but I have considered him my mentor ever since Les Brown introduced me to him. And I've learned that the most important thing we all need to focus on is mindset. Mindset is arguably the one thing that stops the greatest of us in our tracks. I don't care how much you've got to give. If you say you're not going to do it, guess what? You're not going to do it.
Yep.
So that's my learning from Les Brown.
Yeah, I like Bob Proctor, Earl
Yeah.
Nightingale.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like when I saw you, I'm even like an Eckhart Tolle fan, you know? Like
You're gonna go woo woo on us, huh?
it's not even like that, because I'm a Christian person, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't think that I'm very just about being present and
Yeah.
being, enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
And you with profitable happiness, the importance of yes, mindset, but also
Mm-hmm.
being present in the moment. You want to go into that?
Well, yeah, and when I said woo woo, I want to make sure anybody listening to this knows that I meant that as a joke, sort of, because so many people, and myself included, live entire lifetimes getting good at all the external things. They get good at
Mm,
how to read and write and gosh, play the guitar and do all kinds of things. And one day they wake up and they're like, wait a second, I've never ever worked on me. And the funny thing is that, and this is probably the biggest thing I've learned in my life, and that's this: the same methodology and technology it takes to get really good at playing the guitar, the same technology it takes to get good at learning a language or doing anything, is exactly the same thing that you have to use to get good at your own mindset. And once you realize that your mind is a thing, it's a muscle that needs to be developed, just like your muscles over here, and you realize that you've got some greatness inside of that development that you haven't tapped, the world just opens. So I think back to your question about being present. I think it's so easy to just let your life go by. So many people are living lives in which they are the passenger in their own car. They are an extra in their own movie. But if you start to realize, wait a second, I can do this. As Robert Schuller once said, if it's going to be, it's up to me. When you realize that you should be the driver of your own car, that's when you're able to become present, really connect the dots between where you are today and where you want to go, and life opens up when you focus on your mindset.
I love how you said so many people work on the external and not really the internal. And I'm so big on like working on the internal, but I don't think that a lot of people see the benefit
Mm,
in working on the things that they can't necessarily see.
yes, yeah, that is
But
so true.
what have been some of the biggest benefits on working on you?
Ah, my gosh, I could go on for days. I'll tell you one quick one. I am very lucky to be someone who was an unbeliever, if you will. I'll use that word. And then I gave it a shot. And I'll tell you exactly what I gave a try, what I did. I took one sentence from a book that was about thinking and becoming successful from thinking.
Think and Grow Rich?
Not that one.
Oh,
It's the science of growing rich, or the science of getting rich. It's a different book, but it's related. Similar mindset approach. I took like three paragraphs, not one sentence rather, and I was told by my coach to write that every day for 90 days. And what I was writing for 90 days was essentially that if I want to achieve different things, I have to acquire the ability to think differently, not like other people. Because if I think like everyone else, I won't achieve the results that I'm looking for, because everyone else doesn't have don't have those results. And I said, "What am I doing this for?" But I did it. Every single morning, 6 or 7 a.m., I wrote this long thing on a piece of paper. I wrote it. What started to happen is that slowly but surely, I began to believe it. It started to show up in the things I would say to people. It started to show up in the work I was doing. I would want to do an ad or something with my marketing, and I'd go, wait a second, I don't want to do what those people want to do. I want to do what I believe in. It's like this is not what I was doing before. I started to really implement this thing. Why? Because the magic of repetition was
Mm-hmm.
happening to me. And, I have to tell you, that took me from being an unbeliever in the power of my mind to someone who's completely invested in it. And it's funny because I actually had this done to me when I was a child, and I'll take you way back because you were correct. I'm not a spring chicken. Um, I started my life in the '60s. Okay, and back then I was a small refugee child in Africa. We were in a war zone. My mother and I were just running from refugee camp to refugee camp, and the amazing thing is that the bombs are falling. We're hungry. If you've seen those black and white pictures with little African children who are dying, well, I was one of those kids. Okay, and my mother and I were running, and my mother couldn't save me from the bombs, and she couldn't save me from the hunger and the disease. But you know what she did? Every day she would sing songs to me. She would take my name and put them in a song. One of them was called Pelele Arrogancy Ibobo Kunkusi Kunku. Sounds like a rap, right? I love that song. And she would sing it to me every single day. And you know what she was doing? She was programming my subconscious mind and making me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I realized, wait a second, I'm happy. I don't have time to be hungry. I'm not afraid of dying anymore because the happiness replaced all that. And so I learned my life's first lesson, which is happiness comes before success. And you can program it, you can do it to yourself. And when you do it to yourself, that's when you realize the power of your mind. Happiness saved me in my early years, and that's what I implement today.
You said so much. I just got so excited by the things you were saying. First, the scripture that came to mind, because now I've been doing so much with God recently that it's just now I'm just like, okay, scripture, what is that?
Yeah.
Don't be conformed by this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Mm.
Doing that repetition, it's all written, it's all there. It's so your reticular activating system, you
Yep.
seeing the things you doing it, that becoming that reprogramming of your mind is so real. And then you speaking on the happiness point, because now I will get woo woo on you.
Yeah.
You get what you give in this world. So
Yeah.
you giving out that and you overcoming so much. And I'm a little biased. I really respect people that have gone through the most adversity and that are the happiest in their lives and
Mm.
really exude that more than whoever didn't really have a real struggle. Like,
Yeah.
I just that has made it. No, when you've overcome so much and you do so much and you
Hmm.
still have happiness and grace and you have built up to so like that is just the most empowering and inspirational stuff to me. And you can tell it's real. And I was thinking about this today at the gym. I'm like, you know what? If you can't be happy in your struggle, you ain't never gonna be happy. Yes, like, yeah, you can be happy with external stuff if all conditions are right. But
Hmm.
if you can't find happiness in the mud, in the trenches, then you're never gonna truly,
Yeah.
genuinely be happy, and you're gonna miss it no matter how many things you receive. And you just won't. And I think, you just put it all up there. I love it. This is so good.
Well, so many of us struggle with happiness because we don't know what it is. We think that happiness is a feeling that you will wait to achieve someday, or a feeling that you will magically receive someday if something happens. And the problem is that that's not what happiness is. Happiness is something that you invent right here by yourself through doing it. Happiness is an action that you create. It's not something that happens to you. And so when we shift from waiting for happiness to happen to us and we start to actually create happiness ourselves, everything changes. You can create happiness, for example, by listening to a certain song that just motivates you, or reading a book, or as you've shared today, connecting with God. You take those actions, and then the actions take you to the place of happiness. It's not something you wait for when your rent is paid or when the new Tesla shows up. And by the way, you talked about reticular activation system. That is just so deep. If for anyone who doesn't understand it, it's the technology that makes the connection between your thinking and your results. It really is. I know when I bought my Tesla, every day I went outside and every car I saw for some reason was a Tesla. It's like, how did that happen? My reticular activation system had been so focused on buying this Tesla for so long, so concentrated that I programmed my unconscious, subconscious mind to see Teslas everywhere, to see opportunity, to go after
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. And so when
Mm-hmm.
I got it, all of a sudden, boom, now I see them everywhere. And that's the same thing that happens when we tell ourselves, I am happy. You don't say, I'm going to be happy. You say, I got happiness. I wrote a song called I Got Happy. Maybe you should put a link out so people can go check out I Got Happy. But you say, I got it. I have it now. And you keep telling yourself that. And believe it or not, when the smile and the realities of happiness start to show up, you're like, well, how did that happen? Because you've been saying it. That's why it happened.
Yeah. And I mean, this isn't to say, like, for anybody that's listening to this that's going through a hard time and you're like, okay, well, it's easy to just, when you got stuff to be happy, or when when you're not feeling low and you're not feeling down, and when depression hasn't attacked you, and when you haven't lost a loved one, when you've got all of this other stuff. If you are someone that is listening to this right now and you're thinking that, this is not to say that bad things don't come our way. you know but happiness is absolutely a choice, and it's not to ignore the feelings that you have. It's not to ignore those bad things, but understand that all feelings are temporary.
Yeah.
And you got to think about how you're going to get through what you're going through.
Yeah. I mean,
You
I
might have
think
a
it's,
real strong testimony.
well, one of the greatest lessons I learned around the topic you're sharing right now is just the way our minds work.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is a biology, it is a muscle, and it has a technology. And you have to learn it. So here's one thing that the mind does not know how to do. The mind doesn't know how to decide for itself what it should be focusing on. You have to
Mm-hmm.
tell it. So, for example, if I tell you right now, don't think about the color blue,
Mm-hmm.
guess what you just did? You thought about the color blue. No matter what, you can try not to think about the color blue, but you will end up thinking about the color blue because the mind is a tool that gets programmed. And so, if we are experiencing difficult times, we have to remember that if we continue to focus on the difficult times and the difficulty and the mentality of somebody did this to me, it's just going to keep on happening.
Mm-hmm.
We have to decide to focus on what we want and not on what we don't have. Because if we continue focusing on what we don't have, we're going to have more of what we don't have. And it's going to just be a continuing cycle. So that's it. That's the technology of the mind. And I didn't create it. You didn't create it. God created it. The fact is, we have to learn how it works in order to get the best out of it. So if you're in a bad spot, you know, accept that, yes, this has happened to me, but now your response needs to be, this is not where I want to stay.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going. And then you keep that in your mind, and your reticular activation system will take you
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Like, this is just so much. It's giving me
there.
so much vibes from making profit from your ideas to having genuine true happiness from just so in your music. I do want to give a highlight to your music, and I'll have a link for that below, and it's on his website, so you can definitely check it out. There's a few things that have music videos with them as well, and it's super positive music. You want to go into more detail about your music?
Oh, thank you so much for that. My music is the passion of my life. My mother introduced it to me when I was a young child by singing to me every day and programming it into my life. And she basically taught me that if I have any problem, just put it to music, and it'll take care of itself. And so I'm not the traditional music songwriter that writes about, hey, I love you, baby. Of course, I have some songs like that, but my topic is motivation. My topic is how do we get past the struggle and go for what we want? And so every single song I write, I have 20 songs on that website page that you've shared. is a song that lifts you up, that takes you out of the darkness, it puts you on the path to the light that you're looking for. I really believe that, you know, we are beings of spirit. And when we ignore our spirit and just focus on all the stuff we see out here, if we think it's our five senses that matter, we're missing the boat. A
Mhm.
song can really take you, lift you, and change your life. I'm not the kind of musician also who's looking for Billboard charts. I did that back in the 90s. Have you ever heard of Alexander O'Neill? This is another test for whoever's listening. Alexander O'Neill, old school from the Minneapolis Sound back in the Prince days. Okay, nobody knows him, right? Okay, but I produced him.
My mom probably does.
Your mom probably, yeah. Ask your mom. Say, hey, mom, do you know Alexander O'Neill back from the 80s and the 90s? So making money from music is not my focus. It has been, but it's absolutely not my focus. My music is free. My music is a way for me to touch hearts and change lives, not to make money from. But if a connection goes from there to business, no problem. Because I use my music authentically. I just say, hey, enjoy this and let's have a conversation.
And your wife works in hospital. She's a doctor as well, right?
Yes.
And she's worked in the hospitals during the pandemic. You've got a video of that.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that are listening, if you know anybody that works in the medical field, they might need that, because I'm going to let you know, I've experienced so much connection with them recently, and I've noticed they're really hurting, and they're not going to talk about that. So this music might help them. And there's so many different things for different people in different industries. And um Dr. Pelè, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm
Thank you.
For those of you
Same
listening to
here.
this that can't see my smile, I'm smiling so much. um yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, just on the note of that, this pandemic that, my goodness, we've all experienced here. Uh, my wife is an ER doctor, and I wrote a song called "We Are Love," and I dedicated it to all the people who work to save lives in this pandemic, to all the people who've lost people and who've lost their lives. And the song "We Are Love" is on the page that I think you'll probably share. It's a celebration of the fact that no matter what comes at us, right? We are just purely love, and it's from there that everything else can be solved and dealt with. I think the only thing I would want to share is, if anybody's interested in learning how to turn their ideas into clients and how to authentically become the best that they want to be, I would say, join my free Facebook group and join ClientJam and learn in a group how to really connect with people with your heart and turn your happiness into profit that way. I think and it's free. It's just a good thing that people can do. So I'll leave you with a link so you can share for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Empowered Woman, Badass and Unfiltered podcast. If you found any value in this, please consider sharing and subscribing. Now go out and be a badass.